Welcome to the Drew Dynamite channel. How y'all doing? I'm here on the midnight beta, and I got a chance to test out the new Unholy DK. Last time I made a video covering the talents in the alpha, but now that we're in the beta, there were significant changes, and not much has changed with the main class tree since the video I made, but there's been significant changes in the Unholy Tree, which is what I'm mainly going to go over. And then I'm going to show off the combat so that you all can see what Unholy DK is going to look like in the next expansion, most likely. One thing I want to point out is that I'm level 84, so I'm not level 90 yet. I'm missing 6 talent points. I'm missing 2 points here, 2 points here, and 2 points here. Here's a picture of where I would put all the talent points if I was level 90. I'll also go over where I might alternate as we go through the video. Also, I'm building this tree for RBGs and BG Blitz. For those of you who didn't see the alpha video, I'll go over quickly the changes that were in the main class tree. This talent here was changed. Death and Decay no longer makes your Scourge Strike cleave. Now it just happens automatically with some of the talents that are in the Unholy Tree. So you don't need Death and Decay to cleave anymore. It's just AoE that goes on the ground and slows people if you have Grip of the Dead selected. Wraithwalk is on a choice node with March of Darkness, which is fine. I never chose March of Darkness anyway. Unholy Momentum increases your haste by up to 4%. It has 2 points that can go into it. Gloom Ward was also moved, and now it has 2 talent points you could put into it. Unholy Endurance no longer reduces damage. Anti-magic barrier is all the way down here now. We also have some new talents. Blood Bond, while you are below 50% health, your ghoul sacrifices 4% of its maximum health to heal you for 1% of your maximum health every second. That might be good, but I'm worried that it's going to kill my pet and then I'm going to have to resummon it and it's going to mess up my damage, so I don't know if it's going to be worth it to take it or not. It might be. This is all subject to change, obviously, and who knows, in Midnight, maybe I will run this. I'd have to test it to see. And we have Death Defiance. The cooldown of Death Pact is reduced by 30 seconds, and you receive 50% increased healing while its healing absorb is active. And we have Death Notes. Raise ally cost 30 less. We don't care about that. We're never going to pick that talent. But the worst change in this tree, the only change that I'm mad about, is Death's Reach is now on a choice node with Asphyxiate. And you still need Asphyxiate to pick Strangulate, by the way. So you have to pick between having a longer grip or having a stun or silence, which for PvP is really bad. Like, the long grip is such a staple for DKs. I haven't seen any mobility nerfs with Evokers or anyone else, and Warlocks are getting double Death Gate or something, so I don't think this change is fair. Blizzard, if you're watching this, please either make Death's Reach its own talent again, or put it on a choice node with Grip of the Dead or Ice Prison or something. Don't pair it with a stun, please. So like I said before, I'm only level 84, so I'm missing 6 talent points. The last 2 points I would put in the class tree, I would put in Gloom Ward, and the last one I would put in either Grip of the Dead, Blood Bond, Assimilation, or maybe Blood Draw. And now for the hero tree. We're still going to use Rider of the Apocalypse. And as for the new talents that were added, they basically took the War Within Season 3 tier set bonus and threw it in. So now when you use Dark Transformation, you also summon White Mane. And when you use Death Coil or Epidemic, she also does it. And you also get a increased damage boost to all your horsemen. Also, Morgraine's Death and Decay now extends the duration of your diseases by 1 second every time it deals damage. And the last 2 talent points you would put in the hero tree are obviously these. There's nowhere else to put them. And now we get to the meat and potatoes, the Unholy Tree. So, for those of you who didn't see my last video, Festering Wounds are gone, and Apocalypse is gone. Now, instead of applying wounds and popping them with Scourge Strike, now what Festering Strike does is it makes your next 2 to 3 Scourge Strikes summon a Lesser Ghoul. Lesser Ghouls normally last for 6 seconds, but there's a talent in the Unholy Tree that increases the duration based on your mastery. So like I said before, Apocalypse is gone, also Unholy Assault is gone, and Defile's gone. Outbreak was also changed. It still infects the target with Virulent Plague, but it also infects one target with Dread Plague. It's a stronger dot than Virulent Plague, but it can only be applied to one target at a time. Super Strain isn't really a thing anymore. Well, I mean, it is. They just changed it. Like, now, instead of infecting your target with 3 dots, now it just makes Dread Plague grant runic power like Frost Fever did. But I'm jumping all over the place. Scourge Strike, I missed this in the last video, but it's now a 30-yard range by default, so we have a permanent ranged Scourge Strike, which I think is great. It also spreads Virulent Plague when you hit people with it. Clawing Shadows, it makes Scourge Strike cleave, so again, Don't need Death and Decay anymore. Dark Transformation, we all know what that does, and Death Coil and Epidemic is to extend the duration of it by 0.5 seconds. And we have this new talent, Putrefy. Summon a lesser ghoul to strike the enemy for shadow damage and explode. It normally has only one charge, but this talent adds a charge, and this PvP talent adds a charge, totaling to 3 charges with a 30-second recharge time. We all know what Sun and Doom does. It decreases the rune cost of your next Death Coil, and it also increases the damage. Doomed Bidding makes your Sun and Doom procs summon a lesser ghoul. Foul Infections increases disease damage and crit chance. There's this choice node that has you increase the crit damage of either your dots or your minions, but thankfully, they changed it so that you no longer need to pick this in order to get to the good talents. The reason I'm happy about that is because Unholy DKs do not care about crit damage in PvP, so I was miffed when I had to pick that in choice node, but now we don't have to. Thank you, Blizzard. So compared to last time, it saves us a talent point. Morbidity also used to be 2 talents, now it's only 1. Diseased enemies take 2% increased damage from you per disease they are affected by. So that's 4% total, or 6% if it counts White Main's dot, which I believe it does. Super Strain, I already explained. Rapid Variant is trash. I'm most likely never going to pick that. March of Madness, your lesser ghouls deal 15% increased damage. I'm going to pick this talent every time to get to Army of the Dead. Magus of the Dead, we all know what the Maguses are. When you use Dark Transformation, it summons a Magus. Infected Claws lets your ghoul deal dot damage. Ebon Fever, diseases deal 15% more damage over time and 75% of their duration. You either need to pick this or Festering Scythe to get to Blightfall, which increases dot damage by 10%. I think increasing dot damage by 10% is good regardless of whether you're going with a dot build or a Necromancer build, so that's why I have it picked. Or instead of Ebon Fever, you can pick Festering Scythe. It deals more shadow damage to enemies in front of you and hastens your plagues on the target. I'm not sure which one does more overall damage, so I'm just going with Ebon Fever for now. Coil of Devastation. Death Coil deals 10% increased damage and also adds a dot effect to it. We didn't get to the Apex talent yet, but what it does is every time you use Army of the Dead, it buffs your Death Coil, and that's what I'm building this tree around. If I see a buff to Death Coil, I take it. Same with Harbinger of Doom. Sun and Doom triggers 30% more often and accumulates up to 2 times. And consuming the Doom procs also reduces Putrefy's recharge timer by 5 seconds. Unholy Devotion has Putrefy cause your permanent ghoul to go on a frenzy, increasing its attack speed by 25% for 5 seconds, and multiple applications may overlap. I would like to take that talent, but I ran out of points, so... And again, this is all speculation. Maybe I will end up taking that over something else. Menacing Magus makes your Magus of the Dead cast AoE damage. Ghoulish Frenzy increases the attack speed and damage of you and your monstrosity. All Will Serve is still garbage. I don't think I'm going to take that. Putrid Echoes. Putrefy deals 20% increased damage and has 1 additional charge, so that's a must-have. Now let's get to the main burst. Army of the Dead. Now it summons 6 lesser ghouls and either an Abomination or a Gargoyle, depending on which choice node you have picked here. In the alpha video, it used to be that Raise A Bomb would have you only summon 4 ghouls, but they changed it, so now both Raise A Bomb and Summon Gargoyle summon all 6 ghouls from Army of the Dead. The difference is that Abomination does constant AoE damage in a disease cloud. It doesn't infect people with virulent plague, unfortunately, but it also increases minion damage to every enemy that's in the disease cloud. And what Gargoyle does is you summon it and it gets stronger the more runic power you spend, and it always critically strikes. And it lasts for only 25 seconds, while Abomination lasts for 30 seconds, and both A-Bomb and Gargoyle putrefy 2 lesser ghouls. Now, we're not going to know until the expansion comes out, but I'm assuming that Raise A-Bomb does more AoE damage, while Summon Gargoyle does more single target damage. So which one I pick might depend on the map I'm on. So if I'm in an enclosed space in Silver Shard Mines, or if I'm fighting mid in Eye of the Storm, or if I'm fighting Waterworks in Gilneas, I think I would take Raise Abomination. But if I'm playing like a flag map or something where I just want to kill the flag carrier, then probably Gargoyle. So before we get to the rest of the talents, let's just go over the Apex talents real quick. Army of the Dead transforms Death Coil and Epidemic into Necrotic Coil and Graveyard. Necrotic Coil is just a beefed up Death Coil, and Graveyard is also a beefed up Epidemic. That's pretty much it, but it looks cool. You go down here, Army of the Dead grants 40 runic power and causes your next 2 Scourge Strikes to summon a lesser ghoul, and the final talent makes it so whenever you putrefy or summon a lesser ghoul with Scourge Strike, you increase the duration of Forbidden Knowledge by 1 second. I don't have it selected because the tree's not letting me pick it until I get to level 90, I guess. But you get the idea. So for the final talents, Blight Burst, the explosion effect of Putrefy extends the duration of your plagues by 4 seconds and deals 35% of the damage they would deal over time instantly. Putrefy now applies your plagues to unaffected targets. I would consider taking this talent even if I'm not doing a dot build. But if you are doing a dot build, then I think you would have to take Scourging and Pestilence. So what it does is Scourge Strike now instead causes your plagues to erupt for the damage they would inflict over 5 seconds at 35% effectiveness if you have both talents in. And Pestilence makes it so when you Scourge Strike an enemy affected by your plagues, it has a chance to upgrade Outbreak to Pestilence. Consume 100% of your plagues around you and deal 50% of their remaining damage instantly and gain a charge of Putrefy. The dot build might be the way to go, but right now I'm just building this as if the Necromancer build is the best talent build. So, Soul Reaper. It was removed from the main class tree and it was moved to the Unholy Tree, and it is 1,000 times better. It has a 15-second cooldown, and it's only usable on enemies below 35% maximum health. It basically functions like a Warrior's Execute, but it has an added effect. It deals Shadow Frost damage, and it also causes the foe to take 20% increased damage from your diseases and your minions for 8 seconds. That is so much better. They also moved Reaping down to here. Scourge Strike, Festering Strike, and Death Coil deal 30% increased damage to enemies below 35% health. But also, Dark Transformation resets Soul Reaper's cooldown and allows it to be used on any target. Ancient Power, every time you spend Runic Power, it increases your strength by a little bit, and multiple applications overlap. I think it's an auto pick no matter what build you go with. And we have Reanimation. When you putrefy a Lesser Ghoul, it turns into a Magus after it explodes, which is a lot better than Magus of the Dead because this only has 1 ghoul per Dark Transformation you cast, while with Reanimation, you're putrefying ghouls all the time, so you're going to have a bunch of Maguses just shooting their bolts. Unholy Aura is interesting. It used to increase mastery for every Magus you had under your control, but now it only grants haste, which is still good, but I don't know if it's good enough to pick over other talents. Necromancer's Cunning. Now Putrefy summons a Lesser Ghoul to attack instead. So the way Putrefy normally works is you have to use it on a Lesser Ghoul that's already up. But this talent makes it so that you don't need to have a Lesser Ghoul already summoned. You can just use it regardless, and a Lesser Ghoul will just pop up and charge the target and explode. With Commander of the Dead, your Dark Transformation empowers your Gargoyle or Abomination, your Maguses, your Lesser Ghouls for 30 seconds, and increases their damage by 50%. And the duration of Lesser Ghouls are increased by 50% of your mastery. And finally, Outnumber. Each Lesser Ghoul increases the damage of your permanent ghoul by 10%, and Dark Transformation additionally empowers the claw attacks of your Lesser Ghouls to Sweeping Claws, which is just more shadowy AoE damage. The last 2 points I would put in the Unholy Tree if I was max level would be the final point in Forbidden Knowledge and either Unholy Aura, Blight Burst, or Unholy Devotion. Or maybe, maybe I might get rid of Blightfall and Ebon Fever and put it in Magus of the Dead and Menacing Magus. Maybe. And finally, the PvP talents. Necrotic Wounds makes it so that Putrefy has 1 additional charge and applies Necrotic Wound to the enemy when it deals damage, absorbing 8% of all healing received for 15 seconds, stacks up to 3 times, and adding a stack does not refresh the duration. I think this is an auto pick. The next talent I think is also an auto pick is Doom Burst. Sun and Doom also causes your next Death Coil to deal the damage of your plagues an additional time at 25% effectiveness and reduces the target's movement speed by 45% for 3 seconds. And the final PvP talent depends if I pick Asphyxiate or not. If I pick Asphyxiate, then I'm always going to pick Strangulate. If I don't and I pick Death's Reach, then I would probably take Spell Warden just to have a shorter AMS cooldown. So you'll notice Necromancer's Bargain is gone and is instead Necromancer's Cunning. Putrefy now summons a Lesser Ghoul to attack instead, but we already have that in the main talent tree, so I think this was just here as a placeholder. Because earlier it was bugged, and even though I had this talent selected, it wasn't letting me use Putrefy without having a Lesser Ghoul already out, but I think it got fixed somehow, so this is probably just a placeholder, and it's probably gonna get removed later. Okay, let's get on to the rotation. So how it works, you use Outbreak, puts the 2 dots on them. You use Festering Strike to build up your Scourge Strike charges for summoning lesser ghouls. You see the number in the lower right corner of Scourge Strike. That's how many ghoul charges it has. So I cast Scourge Strike and it summons a lesser ghoul. So similar to Festering Wounds, where you wanted to try not to cap over 6, you want to try not to cap over 8 with Scourge Strike. And as you can see, I use Scourge Strike, I summon a lesser ghoul, and when I consume a Sun and Doom proc with Death Coil, I also summon a lesser ghoul. I don't know if there's a limit to how many lesser ghouls you can have out at a time. I'm assuming there isn't. And when you cast Putrefy, it just summons the ghoul and then it explodes. Also, we get Maguses. So, boop. And boop, look at that. They just leap to the target and you get Maguses all around. And Scourge Strike is ranged. And as for the burst, you use Outbreak, Army of the Dead, and then Dark Transformation, which is off the global cooldown, by the way. And you just cast Scourge Strike and Putrefy. Also, during Forbidden Knowledge, the animation of your Death Coil is changed, which I think looks cool. I really like the playstyle of this. I'm basically a melee demo warlock. So far, I really like how Unholy DK is, and I'm really looking forward to trying it in PvP. The only thing I'm pissed about is, again, this choice node. That's my only complaint. Please, Blizzard, if you're listening, move Death's Reach to either another choice node or just make it its own talent again. I'm begging you. But what do you guys think? Are you looking forward to playing Unholy DK in Midnight? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.